Record to this computer. I think we are recording. Yes, so thank you. Hello, and welcome everybody. Welcome to the new year of 2025. Thank you for joining. I hope you are not getting very sick during this winter if you're in the northern hemisphere, or you're getting better, like myself and David and Joe and others that got sick during this break. Today we have only one topic, and we were wondering if we had the people interested in discussing this. If we don't have them, we are going to cover it the best we can and then publish the recording. So I stopped David, who was starting to get into it. Sorry, David, let's get back into it.
Right. So if I get this wrong, I'm happy to cover it again. Even if I get it right, I'm happy to cover it again. If Sunny or I thought there was someone, Carl, Car
Lori, yes.
okay. So if I remember this one correctly, there is a desire to have quota on persistent volume claims based on the volume attribute class, right? So you would say you can have 6 of this volume attribute class and 2 of that volume attribute class, um, and and um, and and so it's like a selector of sorts. Now we actually have a spot to put a selector. It's called the scope selector, and we use that for scopes on pause today, things like is terminating. And if I recall correctly, the implementation actually went ahead and we were using scopes and discovered a bug. And the bug was that scopes were not being recalculated when when an object was updated. So for instance, if you updated from a volume attribute class of foo to bar, whether that's the loud one or not, but like imagine you have that sort of a transition. Then you need to decrement usage of foo and add to usage of bar, right? And there was a bug in the quota evaluation code that didn't do this. It only checked for the quota that was currently being occupied, not every possible one, as I recall
This one, right? Like I'm going back into the meeting. I found the notes on the one you're describing. And by the way, I pinged Sunny, and she told me she's joining. Oh, I think she joined. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi.
So the difficulty that we have is that we could implement this in a way that bypassed scopes and instead selected based on parsing the name. I believe that was a proposal originally. Um, but I think we can all look at that and say that feels more like working around a bug and building on top of the feature as it is broken today, as opposed to correcting the feature. And I'm hard pressed to opt in that direction. And so, Sunny, sorry you weren't here. I was trying, as I remembered it, to get us to the current state. Since you're here, if I missed a detail or something, I'd be very happy to hear it.
Yeah, I think the first thing we want to clarify is that can we just implement this quota uh, without support of like the existing scopes, like those terminating, non-terminating, because those are compute resources. So we don't like we don't think it's reasonable to couple compute and storage for those existing scopes.
So,
And then this, yeah, and then the second discussion we want to have is like why we cannot calculate the status field.
so my memory of the API, and I will pull up a link now, is that we had the ability to have match expressions on these. And that seems to describe exactly what we want. Is my memory out of date there? Doesn't look like it. So there is actually a scope selector field.
If you want me to put any code on the screen, David.
Yep, I am pulling a link now. So just so we can be sure we're all talking about the same thing, let me throw up this link.
Got it.
And so the scope selector provides the ability to say not just like, is this for a pod, but this is the selector I want to represent.
Yeah. But like what I mean is, if we want to explicitly say this quota is only for VAC, it doesn't do anything with the pod-centric scopes.
I guess I'm not clear on why this is pod centric.
Oh, the existing scopes, the terminating, not terminating, those are describing the status of the pod.
Those are the first ones that have been created. They are not, that isn't meant as a limitation. That is simply for, up until now, those were the only ones that were needed.
Yeah, so for the VAC quota, we will not implementing with those scopes.
Could you explain why?
Why? Because we want to decouple. Like, why are we coupling compute resources, which is like the pod-centric scopes, with the storage?
Right now, you have a case of the first 5 scopes are for
Yeah.
pods, but there's nothing pod centric about them, right? Volume attribute class is just as valid a value as any other.
Yeah, so what I mean is we only want to support a volume attributes class case for the count of PVC.
That seems like this API does exactly that. We would add a resource quota scope for volume attribute class.
Yes, and we also want to add storage class as a follow-up. But
That seems valid as well.
yeah, but we don't want to say, okay, for we don't want to end up in a state, for example, PVCs has quota with this VAC and it can only be on the pods for the pods that are not in terminating state. Like, we don't want this combination.
I'm certainly open to adding validation to prevent that, but I don't see why we would not add a scope to represent what it is that we want.
Yeah, but like we are saying first, because one bug that we opened is saying right now the terminating and not terminating doesn't support the PVC count.
I can definitely appreciate that it's bugged and that bug is a problem. But I'm not understanding an API choice that says to not use the scopes that we have to allow us to perform the matching that is desired to be expressed.
Okay. But like, are you saying that we don't, like, we can just do a quota scope of the new volume attributes class that says, okay, there are only this count of PVCs that's in this volume attributes class?
I think I found the original PR. Let's see if I can share that with you. You can throw it up there, Fede, because it has an example. And so if you look at the resource quota example,
Yeah,
you
this
see
is
that this looks like exactly what we would want to have work.
okay.
And I'm sorry that there is a bug. I would be happy to review fixes for that bug. I remember there was also an issue where status needed to be counted. I thought that was a very reasonable thing to extend and add for the API expression that we needed.
Oh, okay. So you're saying we can calculate the status in the scope of the volume attributes class scope for the VAC quota.
I think that we can use it for building the calculation of how much is being used. I think that status should always be allowed to be changed, though. Does that make sense? So status change would reflect in the actual counts that are being used,
Yes.
but status can never be rejected for a quota reason.
Oh, so wait. No, let me open the doc as well.
All right. Yes, this comment here. So we can quota on spec, so we can prevent a write on spec change. We can't prevent a write on status change because that presents the actual state of the world, but we could use it for the calculation because I remember there was like, in order to correctly calculate this volume attribute class scope, we needed to know the status.
Yes.
Does that distinction make sense? I want to be sure we bottom that one out where we can, if status is changing, we have to allow status to change, even if it would violate quota requirements, because it
Oh,
represents the actual state of the world.
okay.
But we can use the status values to say, okay, you've exceeded this much. You can't request another one in spec, as a for instance.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's what you meant. Okay. Because like I was just taking back what coming back from leaf, and I was thinking you were saying we shouldn't calculate the status, but we are definitely not rejecting status change based on uh, the quota calculation. It's only for the spec change.
Right. So you can calculate usage based on status, but you can't reject the status update. But you
Okay.
can reject future spec updates.
Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that's what we want to do. So
No, code wise, I I did not look at it at the end of last year again, but my memory from before is that it was going to require a change to the way we identified which quota evaluators needed to run. I don't know if you personally looked at the code as deeply, but I think that change can be made. I think we know all the possible values. It's just a matter of actually iterating through.
yeah, because we changed the status in the external-resizer, and that one doesn't have like the quota check. So regardless, the status will be changed.
Okay.
This is admission is only happening when the spec change.
Good.
Okay, cool.
So, Sunny, did you get the answer that you needed to get unblocked?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
very good. Well, thank you for bringing this up and for coming. And thank you, David, for your explanation despite not feeling great.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm glad it helped. And as soon as you got something for that bug, let me know. And I will either personally devote the review time or find someone to devote the review time to getting that fixed so we can unblock it.
Sounds great. Thank you both. And I think that was the main topic for today's meeting. I was trying to add something informational about the KubeCons that are upcoming. I know for the Asian ones, call for papers is still open for January. So if anybody's planning going for those, you still have time. And I think the responses for the submissions of the Europe one are coming out these days, like, between yesterday and the next couple of days. So we will know. And that's all I have for today. Thank you everybody for coming. If nothing else, we can adjourn and go back to our things until we meet again in a couple of weeks. Very good. I hope everybody's starting the new year in a great way, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for coming today. Bye-bye.